A new truck is repossessed in America roughly every 18 seconds. Size. Not because the buyer stopped wanting it, because the payment stopped making sense. $750 a month, on average, for a truck that used to cost half that a decade ago. An owner-operator in eastern Ohio signed for a new half-ton pickup in 2023. 18 months later, he handed the keys back himself, before the bank could come get it. Curious? By the end of this, you'll understand why walking away from a truck has become a financial strategy instead of a failure, and why the auction house is now the fastest-growing part of the used truck market. Forward reference. Number 1. What happens to a truck after it goes back rewrites everything you think you know about who actually profits from a repossession. Start with the number that should stop you cold. 1.73 million vehicles were repossessed last year, the highest total since 2009, in the middle of the last financial crisis. That figure is up 43% in just 2 years. This isn't a story about people who can't manage money. It's a story about a truck that cost $49,814 on average in 2025, a price that's climbed 39% since 2017, while paychecks moved a fraction of that distance. Go back to the owner-operator in eastern Ohio. He didn't miss a payment out of carelessness. He ran the numbers, insurance up, fuel up, freight rates flat, and realized the truck payment alone was eating a third of his take-home pay. He called the lender before the lender called him. That decision has a name most drivers have never heard until they're living it: voluntary surrender. He handed the truck back on his own schedule, instead of waking up to an empty driveway. It didn't erase what he owed. It just let him choose the moment. Now widen the lens. The lending system behind this wasn't built to trap people. It was built to move volume. Dealers get paid when the loan is signed, not when it's paid off. Lenders spread risk across millions of loans instead of betting on any one buyer. Longer terms, 72, 84 months, were sold as affordability. They were actually a way to shrink the monthly number while growing the total owed. But this is only the surface layer. Forward reference number 2. The system behind this isn't broken. It's working exactly as it was designed to work. And that design has a second beneficiary you haven't met yet. To understand why this is happening in 2026 specifically, go back 3 years. In 2021 and 2022, new truck inventory was scarce. Chip shortages had frozen factory lines. Dealers had leverage they hadn't had in a generation, and they used it. Sticker prices climbed, and financing terms stretched to keep monthly payments from scaring buyers. Off buyers didn't push back. Demand was high. Rates were still low. 3 words: everyone kept buying. Then the Federal Reserve raised interest rates 7 times between 2022 and 2023, chasing inflation that had touched 9%. Auto loan rates followed, climbing past 9.5% on new vehicle financing for buyers with average credit. That single shift changed the math on every truck loan signed during the shortage years. A buyer who financed $55,000 in 2022 wasn't just carrying a big loan. They were carrying it at a rate nearly double what their neighbor paid 2 years earlier. Payments went up. Wages didn't. By 2024, the loans written during the shortage years were aging into their most dangerous window, 18 to 30 months in, right when the newness wears off and the real cost sets in. That's precisely when delinquencies started climbing past levels last seen during the 2008 crash. Lenders noticed the strain and tightened credit, but tightening credit didn't fix the loans already on the books. It just meant fewer new buyers to replace the ones falling behind. The owner-operator in eastern Ohio wasn't an outlier. He was the profile the data had already predicted. A buyer who financed during the shortage at a high rate, on a long term, right before freight income flattened. But here's what most people get wrong. Most people assume a repossessed truck is a loss for everyone involved. It isn't. It's a loss concentrated almost entirely on one side, the driver, while the rest of the system absorbs the shock and, in some cases, profits from it. Start with what the driver actually loses. Handing back a truck, voluntarily or by force, doesn't erase the loan. The lender sells the truck at auction, often for thousands less than what's owed, and the driver is billed for the difference. That's called a deficiency balance, and it can run $5,000 to $10,000 on a single truck. Put that number in human terms. $8,000 is more than the average American has in total savings. It's a debt that follows a driver for years, on top of losing the vehicle itself. Then there's the credit damage. A voluntary surrender drops a credit score by 100 to 150 points, and it stays on a credit report for 7 years, the same length of time as a forced repossession. Choosing to hand the keys back early buys dignity. It does not buy a clean record. Now follow the truck itself. This is where the story flips. That repossessed truck doesn't disappear. It goes to a wholesale auction, gets a condition grade, and re-enters the market as a certified repo unit, often at thousands below retail, to a buyer with better credit and better timing. Resolving forward reference number 1, the truck he handed back in eastern Ohio didn't vanish. Within weeks, it was back on a lot 2 counties over, priced to move to someone else, someone whose credit and timing let them buy his mistake at a discount. That's the second beneficiary in this system, the buyer waiting on the other end of someone else's default. The repo market has become one of the fastest-growing inventory sources in used trucks, precisely because the volume of repossessions has made it reliable. Resolving forward reference number 2, the lending system wasn't broken by this wave of repossessions. It was fed by it. Dealers already collected their commission at signing. Lenders already priced in a percentage of defaults when they set the interest rate. The only party who didn't know the odds going in was the driver. Here's the number that should reframe everything. At buy here, pay here dealers, the ones marketing everyone approved financing. Nearly 78% of lending goes to subprime borrowers, compared with 27% at traditional lenders. And loans from those dealers are 16.63 times more likely to end up in active repossession. In the third quarter of last year, roughly 5% of those loan balances were already in repossession status, against less than 0.5% for traditional lenders. That's not a coincidence. That's a business model. The higher default rate isn't a flaw in the system. It's a variable the system was priced around from day one. The counterintuitive turn is this. The truck loan crisis of 2026 isn't a story of irresponsible borrowers. It's a story of a financing structure that was engineered to keep functioning and keep profiting, even when a record number of drivers can't keep up. And there's one more number most drivers don't find out until it's too late. The moment they realize giving the truck back was never actually the end of the debt. If you've ever looked at a truck payment and felt the number was designed to feel smaller than it actually was, you were right. That feeling isn't financial illiteracy. It's an accurate read of a system engineered around monthly payments instead of total cost. Here's what most people don't realize. An 84-month loan isn't a convenience. It's a mechanism. It lowers the monthly number just enough to get a buyer to sign, while stretching out the years it takes to build real equity in the truck. For much of that loan, the driver owes more than the truck is worth. A state lender's call being underwater, and one that's now the default condition for a large share of new truck buyers. That's the piece the owner-operator in eastern Ohio didn't know until he called his lender. He wasn't just behind on payments. He was underwater on the loan itself, meaning even walking away didn't zero out the debt. He traded a truck payment for a smaller leftover payment on a truck he no longer owned. Resolving the final forward reference, the number most drivers don't learn until it's too late is the deficiency balance, the debt that survives the truck. It's the quiet second bill nobody mentions at the finance desk. Understanding this puts you ahead of most buyers walking onto a lot this weekend. Most people compare monthly payments. The ones who come out ahead compare total cost, loan length, and what the truck will actually be worth the day the loan ends. Which brings us to what happens next. The repossession wave of 2026 isn't slowing down because the loans that caused it are still aging through the system. The shortage-era contracts signed in 2022 and 2023 still have years left to run. More trucks will go back. More will resurface at auction, priced for someone else's advantage. And the driver in Eastern Ohio, and thousands like him, will spend years paying down a debt for a truck that's already 3 owners removed from the one who financed it. The next truck loan signed on a dealership lot this weekend will either follow that same pattern or it won't. That choice is being made right now by someone who hasn't done the math yet.